German documentary, Exposed, or Nothingburger. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. The German documentary, which was mentioned some time ago, is about to appear, and Erin van der Hoof, writing for Vanity Fair, heralds its arrival. Are we about to witness a substantial exposé of the Sussexes that addresses the key questions that have been running through the minds of many of their detractors? Are we going to get to the heart of the matter with regard to certain of their behaviours? Has it taken an investigative team from outside of the English-speaking nations to do the dirty work to find out what truly has been going on? Or will it amount to a great big Nothingburger? Well, let's first of all find out whether Erin van der Hoof's foreshadowing of the programme provides us with any clues and information in that regard. She writes, on December the 3rd, the German network ZDF will air a new documentary about Prince Harry and this one's wife, which aims to give audiences a closer look at the couple's life in Monty Shit Show, an exclusive enclave in Santa Barbara. The filmmakers visited the town and interviewed at least one of the Duke and Duchess's neighbours. It doesn't state so far when this took place. It does not detail for us which neighbour that they spoke to, and whether the neighbour would actually be able to shed any meaningful light. It's one thing if you live in a row of terraced houses, you may hear activity through the wall, that you may see something from behind your twitching net curtain. But behind the gates and the high hedgerows and fences of the Monty Shit Show enclave, would a neighbour really be able to spot anything that was going on, other than to say, we don't see much of them? Or have they been privy to something that has occurred? Have they seen Harry smoking a spliff in the garden? Have they witnessed a contretemps between the gruesome twosome? Well, we'll have to wait and find out in that regard. The documentary Prince Harry, the Lost Prince, so it appears that the focus is primarily on Harry, will look at the couple's search for relevance following their exit from their royal roles in early 2020. Now, pausing there, my interpretation of the suggestion that they are looking at their search for relevance will basically be looking at their various attempts to make a go of it post-Megxit. Thus, are we to be retreated to a hash of instances showing their various attempts to ingratiate themselves with the Hollywood A-list, of undertaking philanthropic works, of attempts to garner sympathy through moaning about the royal family, i.e., basically aggregate what we already know and point out that this shows that Prince Harry is lost, and this is the pair of them seeking relevance, and they've struggled to find it. Even in his self-imposed exile in Monty Shit Show, California, he remains a public figure. His commitment to charitable organisations, such as the Invictus Games for War Veterans, which he founded, keeps putting him in the spotlight. But the second-born of King Charles, who was at times the most popular royal of the Windsors, is now a controversial figure, the network said in a press release. Paparazzi and the tabloid press are a thorn in his side. A representative from ZDF did not immediately respond to VF's request for comment. That does not strike me as the most appetizing press release. It simply tells us something that we already know. It doesn't appear to be whetting the appetite for major disclosures. In an interview with Express, director Ulrike Grunewald said that working on the documentary helped her understand why the royals were so concerned when this one's wife and Harry left their royal roles. The most damaging allegations can only come from within. Revelations that shock the royal family only come out of Prince Harry's or this one's wife's mouths, she said. I begin to understand the late Queen's verdict that you can't be half in and half out. Perhaps then this documentary is more about the gentle dawning in the mind of the director to finally understand why this one's wife and Prince Harry are seen as problematic, whereas before they didn't realise this, and they eventually are playing catch-up with what many other people know about the Sussexes. Grunewald added that so far, this one's wife and Harry are still trying to make a legacy for themselves. At the moment, it is hard to see any big achievement of their Archwell Foundation, which claims to work for the improvement of communities, she said. This might suggest that there's going to be scrutiny of what Archwell has been doing, perhaps demonstrating that it's not particularly effective and shows that they're not achieving relevance, or will it go deeper, probing the suggestions that it's merely a front which enables them to milk people for donations, which are then used for their own private expenses. The director continued by stating, but there are still voices who see the high potential of the couple, not only for the British monarchy, but also for a liberal society. In April, Monty Show resident and former British newspaper journalist Richard Minards said he sat for an interview with Grunewald and her producers during their trip to Southern California. Los Angeles-based producer Melanie Hillman grilled me for 2 hours on my Riven Rock neighbours, Prince Harry and this one's wife, under director Ulrike Grunewald, he wrote in the Monty Show Journal. The interview is airing in due course as part of a primetime documentary on ZDF Royal. And that is all that we are getting by way of the information distilled through Vanity Fair. How do you feel after you've heard that? Are you salivating at the prospect of a tasty takedown of the gruesome twosome, or are you left thinking, I'm pretty hungry still. I've just dined on a Nothingburger. I have to say that if they're trying to drum up interest in the programme, they're not doing a very good job of it with that reportage. It hardly causes you to think that there's going to be some tantalising tidbits thrown your way. It doesn't seem that they're exactly talking it up to be something that would expose the Sussexes, but rather it strikes me as a rehash of what we already know, basically pulling together the strands and showing that they're struggling to achieve relevance, which is what we already know for ourselves. I suspect that the German documentary is going to turn out to be a Nothingburger. Now, first of all, at this juncture, you might want to share with me your own thoughts as to whether you agree with me, that you think, based on what we've been told there, that, this is going to be a bit of a damp squib, that there isn't going to be any major exposure, that there's not going to be any unveiling of interesting information that people didn't know hitherto, that there isn't going to be some expose revealing actual evidence of things that were suspected. Or do you think that they're holding back, that they're playing their cards close to the chest, that they are in fact hiding their light under their bushel? You can let me know in the comments section. But before you do so, I'd like you to consider this. This one's wife is a narcissist. That is clear. She's a mid-range narcissist. That means she operates in the moment. She is instinctive. She does not engage in extensive planning ahead. She doesn't have due consideration to the collateral consequences of what she does. That means that because she requires control in the moment and is focused on the moment, she makes mistakes, and we have seen many of those. This also means that she creates evidence, and I've explained this in detail in my excellent video, Give the Narcissist Enough Rope. Accordingly, given the premise that 1, she is a narcissist, 2, she's a mid-range narcissist, 3, she operates in the moment, Therefore, there are repeated collateral consequences, which we have seen over the last few years. Presumably, that would mean that there have been collateral consequences prior to her gaining a particular level of fame, alongside when she has gained fame. Therefore, it would be safe to assume that there must be something to investigate. After all, we've seen on numerous occasions where she attempts to achieve something and then there follows the exposure of a lie. For instance, what she said at the Lion King premiere being an immediate example, the nonsense around the supposed car chase in New York, and you can think of many other examples where she's done something or said something in the moment which has been demonstrated to have been a lie and a revision of history, or has resulted in a cock-up in the time that she has been on your radar. It therefore follows that there must be evidence, surely, of other matters that have taken place during the time she has been more prominent and earlier in her life. After all, she didn't become a narcissist at the age of 38. She's been a narcissist for a much longer period of time, since a point in her childhood. On that premise, which is a sound one, because it's based upon her clear narcissism, surely an organisation would have investigated and broadcast or published about, for instance, the allegation that she was once a yacht girl, or the allegations that she's made spicy poontang videos that have found their way onto the internet, allegations about her faking her pregnancies, allegations of making up the buried miscarriage nonsense, allegations of financial improprieties, allegations that she's been married 3 times rather than 2, allegations that she has had a child that she doesn't recognise. These are allegations that repeatedly circulate, and they are allegations that many people believe to be true, and therefore scratch their heads thinking, why have you not investigated these points, and why have you not exposed these matters? Why, with your resources and investigative backgrounds, have you not dug deep enough into the world of this one's wife to expose her in respect of those matters? To my mind, there are 3 explanations. Given that it would appear that the German documentary hasn't provided the expose that many people thought that it would do, why is that? Given the premise that I've just explained about how this one's wife can't help but create the evidence that should be there to be investigated. Well, the first, and perhaps in a way most obvious one, would be to suggest that actually all of the things that I've listed there and others besides are nothing more than simple speculation, i.e. there isn't any evidence, and that when people have investigated, they found out that there isn't any evidence to support those allegations, and all that has happened is that internet sleuths have put 2 and 2 together and made 75, have pumped out the information on the internet, which has been picked up by somebody else, which has been picked up by somebody else, and it's got legs, and has essentially become a suspected truth by virtue of circulation on the internet, when in actual fact, those that have investigated the allegations have found that there's nothing there to support them. Therefore, the first reason could be that these things never actually happened, and they are just speculation and nothing more. The second reason could be that the evidence of these various actions has been removed, that it's been suppressed, perhaps by way of legal injunction, or that it's been difficult to obtain. For instance, people won't speak about it. And therefore, those investigating know that there is something further to prove, but they're not able to prove it, and because they can't prove it to the satisfaction of the standards that are required by lawyers, they don't do anything about it. They know that there is something behind the rumours, they can't prove it, and therefore shy away from doing so because they fear that they will be sued by the litigious Sussexes. Or perhaps the third option is there is actually a lack of desire to slaughter the cash cow. I've made reference to this previously, in that the media outlets recognise that people are interested in this one's wife and Prince Harry, and this is primarily because they're unpopular. And they know that there is a ready audience ready to jump on any tidbit of news that is published about them, to comment on it, read about it, watch it, and therefore, rather than expose them and bring them down, which would then bring an end to the circus, it is in the media's own interest to keep perpetrating it. Namely, don't reveal or expose them, but keep on drip-feeding the information, never engaging in the expose, so that people keep on watching and people keep on reading, and keep doing that because it sells advertising space, and therefore keep doing this. One factor that goes against the possibility of that is that it's difficult to envisage complete cooperation between media outlets. After all, they compete against one another to get exclusives, and therefore one would think that at least one outlet, if it came upon information that could expose the Sussexes in some way, they would break ranks to provide the exclusive, and this has not happened so far. Accordingly, might it be a combination of both A, or the first reason, namely, many of the allegations aren't supported by evidence and they're just speculation, with a combination of other allegations, there is likely truth behind them, but they can't be proven, and therefore no explosive expose will ever happen as a combination of it being simple rumour and difficulty proving it, and that the mainstream media outlets know this, and therefore, because they realise that they can't do the expose, it's in their interest not to say as such, and instead, rather than say, that's a rumour, that's too difficult to prove, there's no substance to that, they just continue the speculation and maintain the articles about the Sussexes until such time as the public get bored, or the eventual divorce breathes new life into the saga for one last hurrah. Might it be that it is actually a combination of many of the allegations have no substance behind them, the other allegations, which are the key ones that people want the Sussexes to be exposed in relation to, are too difficult to expose them because of a lack of evidence, and therefore all that happens is a continuing circus until it either runs out of steam or, as mentioned, it gets a new lease of life when the couple divorce. After all, given the way that a narcissist behaves, such as this one's wife, one would expect that if those things have happened, she will have created evidence. There will be people to talk to. There might even be film or documentary evidence to support those allegations, that, in effect, someone must know. And therefore, if someone must know, the next question becomes, why hasn't anybody actually come up with convincing evidence in a major expose? What do you think? Do you think that I'm right in what I'm suggesting, or do you think that it's something else? Do you think perhaps that her narcissism hasn't caused her to make all of the mistakes that I've suggested? Do you think there's something else behind why there hasn't been a major expose? Perhaps you think one will occur, or that you hope one will occur. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.